Right, I am at Wigan Yamaha. Now, there's a reason why I'm doing this. If you've watched any of my videos before, you'll know I'm not a massive fan of sports bikes, but today I'm going on one. So because of that, I've got to get myself all limbered up. So without further ado, let's have a look what I'm on. And before we do, big thanks to the guys at Wigan Yamaha, in particular Rob, who sorted this out for us today. Let's just cut straight to a walk round, show you exactly what I'm on. And if you're interested, don't forget, link in the description to a bike that I'm on, and also these guys. So if you're interested in a Yamaha, you know where to go. Let's go. Ta-da! Here's the Yamaha R7. It's in the World GP 60th anniversary colour scheme. So what do we think of it? I'm going to take you around the bike the usual way. I'll show you what I like, if there's anything I don't. To be fair, I don't think I've found anything yet, so if I do find something I don't like, we'll find out together. But let's just have a look round. There is our sexy close-up, the Yamaha R7. It's a nice colour scheme. Look at the state on the face on this thing. Look at that. I do like it. Twin disc brakes at the front, and then we've got a rear disc at the back, and that's a Nissan. Doesn't have the typical Duro exhaust that comes out all the way over here and above, and it's like really wide and chunky. It's just a little tiny thing, and it makes a cracking sound. Now the seat, typical sports bike seat, it's quite wide, so it's all right for that. However, there's not a great deal of padding on this bike, but with any sports bike really, the padding on the seat is the least of your worries, because you're bent over the tank. So because you're bent over the tank, it's your back and your wrist that's going to start hurting well before your arse does. People who've seen this channel before, you'll know I am 5'8". I can flat foot this bike, only just, but I can flat foot it. So if you are my height or above, you're fine. The only concern I would have is if you are 6 foot plus, then you might feel a little bit scrunched on it. I think this type of bike suits people of my height. Well, if you're taller, let me know. You can see usual sports bike position. My big gut is pressed against the tank, and yeah, this is your typical riding position. So if you're a big boy or girl, you might want to go and sit on one first before you go and buy one of these things, because you could feel a little bit cramped. Now, it does have a rear seat of a fashion. Now I'll put my hand on the rear seat. Now you can see my hand spans all of it. It's tiny. You are gonna have to get yourself a pillion who has a very small bottom. Do love the tanks that Yamaha are throwing on the bikes. I mean, I've done a previous review on the MT-09 SP, and the angles on the tank, they just look beautiful. And this is exactly the same. It's not just a standard boring tank. There's like angles and shapes and things just happening everywhere. It just draws your eyes to it. Clear lenses on all the indicators. Got just the side stand on this, no center stand, which is always a bit of a pain if you're doing any chain maintenance. Not a great deal of buttons to play with. As you can see, there's like 4, so that's good for me if you're on a bike like this where you're potentially going quite quickly, especially around the corners, because that's what this is made for. You're not having to mess about, and when it comes to indicating, you're not going to start pressing other things other than the indicator, because there's just not loads there, so it's a good thing. Right hand side, just the industry standard for me. We've got an engine cut off, we've got your hazard lights, and we've got your engine start. And unlike a lot of bikes at the minute, this is a key bike, so it's not keyless, which I prefer. I don't see a point of having a keyless bike when you still have to carry a key of some sort on you. I would rather have it on the bike, and then at least I know where it is, as opposed to in a pocket, in a jacket pocket, in a bag, whatever. I just find them easier to have a physical key. You can see we've got temperature gauges, we've got a decent size speedo, and we've got your rev meter across the top. We've also got a clock and a fuel gauge. And they do remind you all over the bike that this is the World GP 60th anniversary bike, or it's the colours. I have seen a couple of the Yamahas in this colour scheme, so it looks like a theme that they'll be throwing out to all of their bikes. I think the colour scheme on this works really well. I'm sure it's available in other colours if you're not interested in the red and white, which I know a lot of fanatical football fans won't be. But it's a personal preference thing. I think it's really nice. And it's got the heritage. It's the 60th anniversary colour scheme. Now, apologies, loads of wind today. Hope my microphone is not picking up too much of the wind, because it is a really windy day today. But there's a little bit of blue sky, and it's not actually that cold. So fingers crossed, bike season is nearly here. So don't forget, if you're interested in this type of video, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I know there's loads of YouTubers out there. I know we're all competing for the same subscribers. But ultimately, I like to think I do it in a completely different way to other people. I don't throw facts and figures at you. If you're interested in millimeters of this, inches of that, cubic centimeters of the other, I'll put that on at the end. So if you want to see it, it's available at the end of this video. And if you don't, and you just want to see what it looks like, what it rides like, stay tuned and hit the subscribe button so you can come back and see more videos of this type. Thanks guys, I'm going to get riding. Let's go. I am bent over the tank like a bride on her wedding night. God bless her. Anyway, dirty bugger. Right, I've done my stretches, so I feel alright. Now, I think when you're on something like this, you're not intending to go slow, are you? But I'm going to try and do my best today to keep it very nice and civilized. As I've said on the walk round, I'm going to try a couple of different roads so you can see how it performs in different conditions. But you tell me, what do you think of this bike? What do you think of the looks of it? Are you considering getting one, or have you even pulled the trigger and bought one? Either way, let me know. This is a sports bike by Yamaha, so yeah, it's going to be quick. And I'm sure if you look on the internet, there's enough videos of this being thrown around racetracks or being thrashed on country lanes. So I'm going to do different roads, yes I am, but I'm going to concentrate on just real world riding, as opposed to look at me, look at how fast I could go. And that does not mean I'm not going to go fast, because I'm sure there'll be an opportunity where I will. But how does this perform just generally around town? Well, I can confirm it performs quite nicely. Some sports bikes I get on, I find they feel like they want to be thrashed constantly, whereas this is quite happy to be thrashed, but it's also quite happy to just stay down the low rev range. So if you are riding through a little town or city, it's gonna be perfectly happy with you doing it. You might not be, however, because people who buy these don't buy them to trundle around, do they? Or you tell me if you've bought one. If this thing doesn't put a smile on your face, then you are one miserable SOB, because this is just miles for smiles, or smiles for miles. backward today, but I did a night shift last night, so you'll have to forgive me if I start talking more drivel than usual, which is difficult on my part because I talk quite a lot of crap. I'm going to do a brake test. I'm going to do a little bit of a launch to see how quickly we get up to speed. I'm not going to be speeding. This is, whilst it is a private road that's been cut off, there's still people milling about, so I'm going to take it nice and easy. It gets up to speed very, very quickly, and it stops quickly. You can feel the ABS kicking in with the back brake as well. You start to feel that little bit of a bounce on your foot, but it stops nicely. Catch yourself in the bus stop and you get a reflection of yourself and you see how bad you look, but how nice the bike looks. As you would expect, because they're quite slim and they're very nimble, they are excellent for a bit of sneaky. One of the downsides of being on a bike like this, you are bent over the tank, which means my twig and giggleberries are pressed against the tank, and every time I brake I feel my plums going up into my throat. But it certainly isn't comfortable when I'm doing a brake test or having to brake quite quickly. I think I need to wear a cup. I have been on quite a few sports bikes recently, and I know every time I say I'm not a massive fan of them, but I'm not a fan of them because of how uncomfortable I generally am. But I've been on this bike for a short time now, but I actually feel quite comfortable with it. I don't know whether it's because it's a smaller sports bike. I think the 1000 cc's always seem to be a bit more brutal, whereas these seem to be a bit gentler. Trying to explain it is very difficult. Traffic is dog turd, but great bike for a bit of filtering. Just have to watch this one with his indicators on. Can't go anywhere. The state. Traffic everywhere. Now that looks like traffic getting on the motorway, but I'm not going to do that just yet. I might try and find a fast road in a bit that I can go and open this up on, but for now, just a nice little example of why motorbikes are so much better than cars when it comes to this traffic riding. I'd have been stuck behind all of that for a while. Now what you do have to watch is people like this guy in front, who's clearly a taxi driver playing with his phone, because you can see him in the mirror constantly looking down at his phone, which means he's not paying attention to me or anybody else on the road. So he is the type of person that's just going to pull out in front of you. So you just really have to watch for people like that, or morons as I like to call them. I need to go this way, so I'm going to just sneak in here. What a nice and easy bike for a bit of filtering. I think it's probably, I feel confident on this bike because it's so smooth to ride, but the bars themselves, they're not particularly wide, so you do have quite a, well, you feel quite thin on the road because of this. And it's probably the first time in a long while I've felt quite thin. So in all honesty though, this bike is that good. And I call sports bikes a lot because I find them to be uncomfortable and I don't really enjoy riding them, to be brutally honest. But this has been an absolute pleasure, and one that I'm actually sorry to take it back. I would be quite happy spending more time on this bike today, and I've done quite a few hours today, and I've got to say I am not sore. I'm actually very pleasantly surprised. So I'm back at Wigan Yamaha. They are obviously selling these bikes, so if you're interested in one, I will put a link in the description.